program called Here Next Year. So I walk around and everyone thinks that we're speaking out here for the year, which many of you might have done. But you guys made a very different decision, not about being here for a year, but to be here next year. This Shabbat, we finished Sefer Vayikra, and the first three words are Im bechukotai telechu. Im is a condition, bechukotai is your mind, telechu is your feet. The Torah says there's one condition, and the condition is that if you look at your body, your mind is the top. Your mind is what thinks. Your mind is what dreams. Your mind is what says, I want to go somewhere. But your feet are the lowest part of your body. And anyone who knows Shawshank Redemption, if you don't, that's a problem. And you might not be here next year if you don't. We all know in Shawshank Redemption, no one looks at people's shoes, because no one really cares about the feet. But the Torah says that the condition is that you could relate the mind, the dream, the concept, the idea, and understand that it's not about talking, it's rather about walking. It's not about thinking, it's not about inspiring, it's about doing and doing and doing. I have a theory that I made up last night with my wife. And the theory is called the inside theory. There's a reason why people go in. And there's a reason why people stay inside. The reason why people go in is never the reason that they stay inside. I went to Camel Shabbat. I don't know if there's like stone here, Ennis more. But we know that at the end of the day it all comes down to one place. Seriously. And Moshe Shabbat, where I grew up for 27 years. So I had a great group of friends. We grew up as nerds. And we basically spoke about going to the army our entire lives. We went on raids, we wore great green uniforms, went through the forest, and you know, that's the dream, the army. So after being a camper there for 27 years, or 16 then, so Chana Spiegelman comes out to me and says, Yair, in 6 months you're going into the army. And I want you to speak to the entire camp. So I'm a 19-year-old that grew up in this camp, and I stand in front of 500 people. And I tell them about growing up in this camp, dreaming about going to the army, putting on the green uniform. In the left corner, my mother's crying. In the right corner, my father's crying. The entire camp's all inspired. It's all amazing. 6 months later, I put on a green uniform. I'm living the dream. I walk outside. My commander says, you look stupid. Here's your kumta on the floor. Get down, do 30 push-ups. And the great dream, the great reason why I entered shattered, and for the next 4 months, all I could do is cry. So when you come in, you have great inspiration. But that's not what causes you to stay inside. To stay inside, you don't need inspiration. To stay inside, you don't need motivation, and you do not need a dream to stay where you are. You need one thing and one thing only. And to understand that one thing, I just want about, 50 feet from here is the Tayelet. And I went to Yeshiva Otniel, if anyone knows that, for like 10 years. And we did a minyan, and we had about 700 people. And we're dancing. And I see a group of like 60, 70-year-olds. And 67-year-olds, they watch then. But we took them all in. And they're dancing, we're dancing. Everyone's getting so into it. And after about 35 minutes of dancing, they all leave. We finish the minyan and there's one guy sitting on the side. And I go over and I say to him, what's your name? And he says to me, Joe. So I said to him, Joe, where are you from? He says, I'm from San Francisco. So I asked him, why are you still here? What are you waiting for? What are you looking at? He says to me, when I was 5 years old in San Francisco, it was 1940. And I was walking with my father through the street, and a guy made sure that my father, wearing a nice kippah, a nice tzitzit, would be lying on the floor, spit on and stepped on. When we got home that night, my father looked at me and said, Joe, I don't want you ever to tell anyone in the world who you are and where you're from. He says to me, I'm 65 years old. For 60 years, I never once told anyone who I was. And I stand here and I watch all of you. And as I watch all of you, I understand what I was missing was one moment of inspiration. I got stepped on, but I had nothing to look at. You gave me something to look at. And then he says to me, it doesn't even matter. Because that's not what's going to last. What's going to last is not the great mind and not the good ideas, but the normal experience of walking in every single day. Deciding to understand that the inspiration dies. And all of you have come here, you're not talking about, I'm here for a year. That anyone can do. You're saying when the inspiration dies, I understand that the true inspiration is what I do, what I live, where I go, and not what I talk, what I think, and what I dream. And just to end this quick idea, the reason that to go in and to go inside is different is because when you're inspired, you're dependent. I was dependent on a dream. I was dependent on someone. I was dependent on Hanan Kupietzky giving me a morning inspiration of like, the world's going to be better, but he's not there every day. And the reason when you walk in dies is because the only thing that lasts is not emotion. Emotion will always blast. Anyone here who knows the amazingness of Nefesh b'Nefesh, understand that that moment when you all come to the airport is not the end. That's a chuppah. It's amazing. You have so much emotion. But at your chuppah, you recognize that there are no walls. And there are no walls at your chuppah because the idea is you're just starting. There's so much more. And when we enter with motivation, the emotion expires and the devotion will last. And when you ask yourself, what is the secret, what is the essence of here next year? It's that I'll walk around knowing that reality is the dream. Abraham starts with Lech Lecha and ends with Lech Lecha. And he says it's not about here, it's about your feet that walk in the normal ground. If you can't be inspired from reality, then you'll always search up and you'll never last. I have the greatest zchut to be living for the last 3 years with my wife in the old city. And when we moved in, my son looked at me and he said, Abba, is this where Avraham Avinu lived? You could think about it and realize that where you walk defines why you talk. We could talk for 18 years about the greatest ideas, but the most important is that you inspire yourself through real life and understand that the ground that you sit on is not soil, but it's a dream. And in 48 hours when we dance on Yom Yerushalayim, people got that. When people walked through, they understood that. But we have so much, and therefore sometimes we have so little. And sometimes to sit in this group reminds you that the greatest marathon in the world begins with one step. And that one step is the beginning of a real dream. I give us all a bracha to not wait for inspiration, but create motivation, which is devotion daily. To see yourself as the one who brings the idea of the chok, of the mind, of the dream. So the normality of your feet and where you go and what you do. And you're no different than Avraham Avinu, because if he walked and you walk, if you're a soldier with like boots and you have like the greatest blisters in the world on your feet, but your feet are touching the dream, then every step you take is not a step backward, but it's always a step forward. We should have the bracha to, right, with the videos in the world. We should have the bracha who built this, to keep remembering that it's here next year. It's about using the moment to continue forever. And you guys should know that you inspire me, who was born here in Beersheba, to see Israel in a different way. And it should give us the koach and the strength to know that it's about our feet. Where we go is always forward. Am Yisrael Chai.
Amen.